I'm grateful to call him my friend, Karl Dean, Mayor of Nashville.
Well, thank you all. It's wonderful to be here, and Howard, thank you for the introduction. I have definitely enjoyed one of the great pleasant surprises for me was when I started working on this regionalism issue that I had the opportunity to meet a lot of the mayors and work with the mayors all over Middle Tennessee. And Howard does a fantastic job and is very supportive of the initiatives we have and very thoughtful. So he represents your county exceptionally well. I thought first I'd like to just introduce myself, and then I'll talk about two issues, and then hopefully leave a lot of time for questions if that's okay with you all. I was elected mayor in 2007, and prior to that I had served our city of Nashville as the elected public defender. I was elected in 1990, re-elected in 94 and 98. And then when Mayor Purcell came into office, he asked me to leave the public defender's office and be the city's law director, which is essentially you run the law department, which is about 30 lawyers, and you handle all the legal work for the city. And when Bill's term was coming to an end, his second term, I really loved the city, loved the work I was doing, and thought I would run for mayor, which came as a surprise to a lot of people. And so I quit my job. I didn't think I could stay as law director and be a candidate for mayor at the same time. In January, I just started running and ran for basically 9 months. And I can tell you how I was kind of not the most well-known person in the city. The public defender is not, in terms of the list of elected officials, you're usually in the back of the room. But when I was first announced my candidacy, the city paper came out with a poll they did. It was an internet poll where people just voted online, and there was about 5 or 6 serious candidates, and the poll came out, and my wife and I were discussing it one morning, and my middle child, my daughter, was listening to us, and the poll had me at 1% at the bottom of the poll. And I remember very well my middle child looking frightened all of a sudden. She said, "Dad, you still have time to back out." I didn't, and was elected mayor, and I've really enjoyed the job. It's been by far the most rewarding experience I've had in my lifetime. I mean, Nashville is a great city, and the job is one where you can do things, where you see results, and you feel like when you go to work, that something's going to happen, you're getting things done. Nashville is I think, a very welcoming city. I am the 3rd consecutive mayor who's not a native. I didn't talk about that much during the campaign, but my opponents did, so it's fine. Is that, I came here in 1978 to go to law school. I grew up in actually probably a town much like this town of about 17,000 people, a small city about 60 miles west of Boston. And during the 60s and 70s, that 60 miles was a big distance. I mean, you did not casually go into Boston to go to a Red Sox game. It was like a once-in-a-year, big deal, birthday type event. But I loved it there. But I went off to college in New York City, and then in New York City, the college I was at sort of encouraged me to look at Vanderbilt. And I came down to Vanderbilt in '78 to go to school. And while at Vanderbilt, I really enjoyed living in Nashville and enjoyed Vanderbilt immensely. And I met a woman who's a Nashville native who was in law school with me, Ann Davis, who is a lot smarter than me. And so, the old story, we fall in love, and then we go through, I guess, what diplomats would call, we had frank and open discussions about where we would live after we got married. I was arguing for a small sort of factory city in New England, and she was arguing for Nashville. And I live in Nashville. And so it worked out for both of us. Nashville's a great city, and what I found is to be true about Nashville and this whole area is that it's so friendly and so open, and it's been a place that I've really come to love, and I have this incredible sense of optimism about the future here. I mean, I really do think we're living in a part of the country that is going to do very, very well in the upcoming years. And the challenge for all of us, whether we're in Nashville or whether in the greater Middle Tennessee region, is to make sure that we position ourselves to fully take advantage of that. So that kind of leads me into two items that I want to discuss. The first is transportation, which is definitely related to what Howard was talking about in terms of regionalism. You know, I've become more and more convinced that looking at things from a regional perspective is good for all of us. I think right now Middle Tennessee has a major asset in the state in that a lot of the leaders in Middle Tennessee do think of ourselves as a region. We do work cooperatively together, and we try to understand each other's differences and viewpoints, but we see ourselves as a region. And there are a lot of different issues that come up for the region. I mean, clearly economic development is an issue that is that everyone's concerned about, and I take it's an issue that I care about a lot on a day-to-day basis for Nashville. But my viewpoint is that if there's something good happening here, that's good for us. And if something's good happening in Nashville, I think that's good for you. The region has to be strong for Nashville to be successful, and I think Nashville has to be strong for the region to be successful. And so it's a relationship that we need to work together on. The most obvious area where you can see regionalism being important right now is transportation. In every different part of the region, it's going to have a little bit of a different viewpoint on it. I mean, clearly in Nashville, we're dealing with large amounts of traffic on a lot of different roads within the city. We also have 3 interstates that come together in Nashville, and there's a lot of congestion there. Each area around Nashville has their own independent issues regarding the traffic, particularly on the interstates, in terms of allowing people to commute and conduct business throughout the region. But it's pretty clear to me that the population of this area, Middle Tennessee, the greater Nashville area, is going to increase by about 1 million people by 2035. I mean, we are growing. I mean, we're one of the areas of the country where every census, our area grows. And if we do nothing, we're going to continue to grow, and we're going to continue to have more people, and we're going to continue to have more cars. And so we have to begin thinking about how we handle that. Now, it's pretty clear to me, too, that this region has all different levels of density. I mean, there are portions of Nashville that certainly could not support any type of mass transit because there just aren't enough people there. They live too far apart, and it just doesn't make any sense. There are different counties in the region that are still relatively low density. There are a lot of counties and more counties that are seeing the density reach a point where they do need transit solutions. An obvious example would be the congestion you see on 65 going north or south, and 24 going either way, and 40 at rush hour in the morning or in the evening. And all of that affects people's quality of life, and all of that affects the ability of our region to be commercially viable. So we've been talking in the Mayor's Caucus, and the Mayor's Caucus is this organization that really I got the idea for when I was in Denver. I went to Denver as part of a chamber trip to look at different ideas they had there. And the then mayor of Denver is a guy named John Hickenlooper, who's now the governor of Colorado. And he had formed the Mayor's Caucus, where basically he invited all the mayors of all the surrounding counties and all the surrounding cities to meet in Denver once every other month or once a month to discuss issues of regional concern. And I thought that was a great idea, so I did what anybody would do. I stole it, came back here and did the same thing. But in Denver, what they did is, I mean, you've seen in Denver over the course of the last 10 years, a very sophisticated transit system has evolved. And you can look at Denver now. I mean, Denver's a bigger city than Nashville by far. But Denver basically is about in the same position, well, they were about 20 years ago in the same position we are now. But they had the foresight to begin to plan and develop transit solutions. So as we meet as mayors, we're talking about whether it's better bus transit between the counties, having better service to get people from Springfield to downtown, whether it's looking at, for the heavier routes, to look at possibility of light rail. I mean, I think one of the things we always have to do is make sure that we understand the cost implications of any decision we make, but we need to do something. And the sooner we get something going, the better. Now, talking about Nashville, we have made, over the last couple of years, we have made some big investments in mass transit in terms of our Metropolitan Transit Authority. I have been very supportive of that in the budget because I think Nashville as a city, we're already at the point where we need to be seeing transit solutions in the very near future. I mean, people will come to Nashville from Atlanta and DC and Los Angeles, and you'll say, I'm working on traffic issues, and they'll say, what traffic issues? You don't have any traffic problems here. But again, I think we do have them now. We'll certainly have them by 2035, and we need to be going down that road. And another thing that really galvanized, I think, all the mayors too, was you remember a few years back when we had sort of this artificial spike in gas prices because there was problems with the lines, the pipelines to the south of us, and where gas stations actually ran out of gas and you couldn't get gas and the prices started going up. And people immediately were asking all of us, what's the plan? Where's the transit going to be? We can't go on with $3.50 gas. Well, we can go on with $3.50 gas, and I think the issue is now is whether we can go on with $4 gas and $5 gas and $6 gas, because that's the trend. What we're doing in Nashville right now is we've worked hard on something called bus rapid transit. We have something called bus rapid transit light on Gallatin Road, which, bus rapid transit are buses, they're usually the better modern buses that are hybrids that go longer distances between stops. So that instead of, if you're going from Rivergate to downtown Nashville, if you ride the local, you're going to stop about 45 to 50 times, and it takes a long time. If you get on the bus rapid transit bus, you're going to stop about less than 10 times, and you get there in much reduced time. Now, that bus, the buses we have on Gallatin Road now have the ability to extend the light. So as they're approaching a green light, the light will stay green for the bus to get through, so that the bus is able to go through traffic probably faster than most private vehicles can. And of course, I always tell people, most people think, well, I'll just follow that bus. But that has worked very well. That has been our highest ridership has been at Gallatin Road. Now we're working on something called the East-West Connector. And this is a big move for the city. The East-West Connector would be what we call full bus rapid transit. We did a study about what sort of transit solutions we could do on West End going into East Nashville at 5 points. What would be the best thing for the city? And we looked for, in terms of the feasibility study, we looked at streetcars and we looked at bus rapid transit. The streetcars have a lot of attraction in the sense that there's sort of a romantic image of streetcars, and that you think that's what everybody wants is a streetcar. But to build a streetcar, you have to have rail in the ground, you got to put electricity in the air, and you have to interfere more with the landscaping of your street. Right? But here's the clincher. The price for a streetcar is about $140 million more than bus rapid transit. So we studied it, and the consultants told us the ridership on the BRT would be equal to the streetcar, if not more. We also talked to the federal government folks, and the federal government right now is definitely encouraging people to look at bus rapid transit, and there are more federal dollars available there. So we did, after the feasibility study was done, we picked bus rapid transit. And the difference between this and what's on Gallatin Road right now is this will have a dedicated lane. That will be a lane where only the bus will go, or the buses. And because of that, you should be able to get from downtown Nashville to Vanderbilt, to watch Vanderbilt win a basketball game, faster than you can do it in your own car. Now, the buses will be hybrids, double articulated, really attractive buses, and over time I think they'll probably be battery driven. We'll also have much more sophisticated stops. The idea would be that either the stops either be on the side of the road or they could be in the middle of the road, but you will be able to pay for the bus or swipe your card, which is even better, and get into an area where the paid customer is waiting for the bus. So that when the bus arrives, there's no waiting for people to pay or to find their card or get the correct change. And they'll be all covered, comfortable, real information about when the bus is going to arrive. And that's a big investment. And our thought is we're going to run it from 5 points all the way to White Bridge Road. And that will be, I think, a really good thing for strengthening the city and helping us with not only our local people and strengthening downtown, but it's also be a major asset for our tourists. But that's the big investment we're working on now, and I would anticipate that my goal is to have this up and running before I'm done as mayor, which is in 2015. We do the environmental and engineering work this year, and then we move on into design and construction. And so stay tuned, but I think that's on track. The other big project I want to talk to you about is the downtown convention center. If you've been downtown, you might have noticed that we're building a little building behind Bridgestone. And that building is, right now, is on budget and on time. At about this point next year, we will be opening it. It will open in April of next year. And when we open it, what it does is it moves Nashville from being able to compete for roughly 23 to 25% of the downtown convention business to allowing us to compete for over 80% of the downtown convention business. We're going to move from not being able to house many conventions that we have had over the years to being able to house almost anything. And what I would tell you right now is in terms of the bookings for the convention center, we have over 70 conventions already booked for the new center. We have over 600,000 room nights for the hotels for the new convention center already booked. Our goal is to have 1 million pretty much available by the time the Omni Hotel opens as part of the convention center project. And all that is moving very smoothly. In terms of where we are with the tourism industry, I'll tell you this, that the money that is being used to finance the project, which is the hotel-motel tax in Nashville, when we were going through the approval process through the council, our projections were very conservative. We were not out there on the limb with anything. And we found in this past 6-7 months that in June of last year, in terms of hotel-motel tax collections, we set the all-time record in June for Nashville, the most collections ever received. And there's an explanation for that. The CMA Music Fest is in June. It gets bigger every year. There are more international visitors, people from all over the country coming to it, so you understand that. All right, but that record that we set in June of 2011 stood until October of 2011, when the record was broken again. And that's a little harder to explain. I mean, the Vanderbilt football team has gotten a lot better, but I don't know that that accounts for that. There have been a lot of people were coming to Nashville for conventions and other things at our current convention center, and we broke the record. For January of this year, our hotel-motel tax collection is up 10%. In February, it's up 15%. I don't know the March figures yet, but I do know we were the #1 city for increased occupancy in the entire country. So the trend lines are good. Now the building itself, if you haven't, hopefully you've all seen it recently, but one of the things that I get the most pleasure out of in the last few months has been that people are seeing the outside of the building now. And I think there's a sense that it is an interesting, attractive building that adds a lot to Nashville. I mean, one of the fears that we had to overcome during this process was people thought we were going to build a box. And it would take away from downtown Nashville. I think almost by universal consensus, it is an addition to the city. I mean, it's got the wavy roof, lots of glass, it is a unique building. And we've been very conscious of the fact that the roof is important because you can see the roof from every office building in Nashville for the most part. You can see it from the interstates. It's going to be probably the thing people will fix on the most when they drive by our city. So the roof has a portion of it is green. We planted grass and things on the roof. We're in the process of working on solar panels for the roof. And so I'm very optimistic that that building is going to be a huge hit. It's going to be LEED certified, silver level, which is a good thing too. Now part of the project is the hotel. And the hotel to me is vitally important because, again, I don't know why I keep going back to the old debate, but one of the arguments against building a convention center in the midst of the recession was, you build a convention center, that's great, but then you're going to need a hotel, and you're not going to be able to get a hotel. There are cities like Pittsburgh, Milwaukee, Washington, D.C. that did convention center projects and were unable to get an anchor hotel, a headquarters hotel. And so we were pretty confident that we could, because I just cited these figures about Nashville's hospitality industry doing so well. But it really worked out well. We started the construction without having an agreement. We had lots of proposals. All of them involved the city basically financing the building of a hotel, and I said I wouldn't do that. And so we got into it, and finally we met with the folks from Omni, and Omni is a great corporation. I mean, really smart people who have done very, very well over the course of the last 10 years. But what really makes them special is they have a lot of cash. So when we met with them, I mean, basically the conversation was, we think Nashville's a great place to be. We want to build, we want to be part of Nashville's growth. You know, we need some tax considerations, TIF, in order to help with the building, but we'll pay for the building. We'll build the building. We're going to make a $250 million investment in the middle of the city. And so Omni came in and built, is now building, you can see it, it's several stories above ground now, an 800-room hotel, right across the street from the new convention center. But then this is, to me, is my favorite part of this. I had been talking for a long time with the Country Music Hall of Fame about their needs. They wanted to expand. And so we were working with them, and then we got Omni on board. And so what we agreed to was, where they're building the hotel is right behind the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame and the Omni are going to meet. The Hall of Fame is basically doubling in size, and it will meet with the Omni, and they will be integrated together. So that when you're in the lobby of the Hall of Fame, you're in the lobby of the Omni. When you're in the ballroom floors of the Omni, you're in the entertainment floors of the Hall of Fame. Right now, the Hall of Fame is doing great business for our city. I mean, they're averaging somewhere around 475 visitors a year. It's one of our, probably the main tourist attraction, certainly in the downtown area. I would predict that once the hotel opens and the convention center's open, their attendance is going to double. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine, I really wouldn't want to even meet the person, who would come to a convention in Nashville, Tennessee, right, and go to the Omni across the street from the Music City Center, and not go to the Hall of Fame, which is a wonderful cultural institution. So I think we will be able to create there a really unique campus. And then Fifth Avenue that runs in between them is going to be transformed into a much more pedestrian-oriented street with art and obviously landscaping. It's going to be really special. But when you think about a visitor to our city for a convention, they'll come to the Music City Center for the convention, walk over to the Omni where they're really in the Hall of Fame. They'll go to the Hall of Fame, they'll go to the convention business that they have at the convention center. They'll turn right and they'll go up the street. And they'll walk past Bridgestone Arena, where, you know, the Predators will be playing for the Stanley Cup Final here shortly. But they'll walk past the Bridgestone Arena, which over time will transform itself. Because the back of that building is not where it's not, you know, it's the area people go to smoke during hockey games. Will be now at one of the most important intersections in the city: the Convention Center, the Hall of Fame Omni, and the Hilton. And so that will transform into some more retail, more restaurant type things, and Bridgestone will be better. Then the visitor will go on up the street, and they'll get to Broadway, and that's where they'll find the honky tonks. And the honky tonks are just knocking it out. I mean, I don't know whether it's the honky or the tonky, but they're doing fantastic. Tootsie's just announced they're going to add a level to their building. We just did a project with the honky tonks where we cleaned up Ryman Alley behind between the Ryman and Tootsie's, and basically that was an area which had real sewage problems, and you would know that if you've been there. It had sewage problems. We fixed all that. We repaved it. Had bricks put down. And that'll be another area for big public events. So, I mean, I do believe, this, I'm clearly biased, I do believe that at the end of the day, we're going to have, in terms of a convention center area, and the building, and the hotel, and the Hall of Fame together, we're going to have the most compelling, the most unique convention center in the United States. And I believe that. And you can look at the people who are coming. 2014, the Women's Final Four will be played in Nashville. A big convention comes with that. The National Rifle Association, the NRA, will be coming to Nashville with about 23,000 people. And our city will be very safe that weekend. Lots of people in our city. But that's wonderful. You think about what that means in terms of the economy. And then I think that we have to start thinking big all the time. There is really not anything I can think of between what we're going to have downtown and what Gaylord has to offer that we couldn't handle. So it's a great opportunity, and I think that project will be exciting to see over the next couple of years as it all unfolds. Now, those are the two things I wanted to mention, but I would just close with this. In terms of these two issues, transportation and the convention center, they both kind of represent to me what I think cities need to be doing. Cities got to have enough confidence in themselves to invest in themselves. You've got to be thinking about the future. You're not going to get there unless you invest. unless you're part of unless you're creating the atmosphere or the environment that's going to allow you to prosper and grow. And that's what we're trying to do. And I think we're going to be successful because I do believe, to the core of my being, that Nashville's best days are still ahead of it. It's going to be a better city 10 years from now. It's going to be a better place 20 years from now and 30 years from now. It just all depends on whether we just do the right things to move us forward in that direction.